Mystical Love, Chapter 2, Beautiful Start. Sunday morning came and Sabrina got a text. "Hey, it's Richard. What time do you want to meet and where?" Sabrina thought for a moment. "Greens and proteins on West Flamingo. I'm pretty open with time. It's laundry day." Sabrina had no idea why she had mentioned laundry day. He didn't need to know about her laundry or her schedule. "Let's do 1 p.m. I'll buy you whatever you want, and I hope studying with me is a little less boring than laundry." Smiley face emoji. Richard's offer to buy Sabrina something, and his joke, made her feel a little less awkward. What a gentleman, she thought. But we are only study buddies, and he is being nice. Sabrina got to the smoothie shop a little early. She was too excited for her study date. Not a date, she thought. He offered to buy me something, and then we are going to analyze each other's papers. That's it. She sat at a table where Richard could see her when he came in. She didn't take her stuff out yet because there was a part of her that thought he wouldn't show up. She didn't know why she was thinking that. Maybe she learned to never trust anyone who plays in a band for a living. Sabrina looked at her watch, 12:59 p.m. The glass door to the shop opened and Richard entered. The sun was shining behind him. He looked taller today. His black spiky hair, movie star sunglasses, and blue button-down shirt made her do a double take. She noticed the first 3 buttons on the shirt were unbuttoned, and the sleeves were rolled up to mid-forearm. He met her gaze and smiled with dazzling white teeth. "Hey, Sabrina," Richard said happily. "Hi, Richard," Sabrina replied. Richard went to hug her but pulled back. "Oh, sorry, that was a little forward," Richard said, putting out his hand. Sabrina shook his hand and smiled. She almost wished he had accidentally hugged her. They walked to the line to order. "He is just a study buddy," thought Sabrina. That's so cute how he says study buddy. "So what can I get you? Order anything you want," Richard said. "And please, let me know it's good because I haven't been here before." He pulled off his sunglasses to look at the menu. His eyes were so blue they matched his shirt. They got to the front of the line and placed the order with the cashier. "I'll have the mixed greens with grilled chicken and lemon vinaigrette," Sabrina told the cashier. Then she turned to Richard. "Everything is good, but if you like hamburgers, try the buffalo burger." Richard told the cashier, "Okay, I'll have the buffalo burger. I've never had buffalo before." After paying, Richard and Sabrina took their order number to the table she chose. They pulled out their homework papers. Richard paused, papers in hand, and said, "Before I give this to you, Sabrina, please be kind. It's my first paper in a really long time." Then he handed her his paper. "And the same rules apply for you. Be kind," Sabrina said. She was shaking as she handed Richard her paper. He noticed and touched her hand gently. "It's going to be okay. We are both new at this," Richard assured her. "We are in this together." Richard was looking into her eyes with love and kindness. From his perspective, he couldn't imagine spending his study time with anyone else. This was much better than hanging out with the guys or drinking himself into a coma. For him, this was something different and new. It wasn't just the writing, but he felt drawn to this woman in a deep way. It was more than just an attraction. Normally, it wasn't difficult to find the occasional fangirl to hook up with. They were easy. He didn't really have to do anything but play the Rockstar. He didn't want to do that around Sabrina. He just wanted to be himself. Richard and Sabrina were holding hands long enough to be interrupted by the person bringing out their meals. "Chicken salad?" Sabrina raised her hand. "And you've got the burger." The waitress put the plate down and took the plastic number from the table. Richard seemed to be in a trance. Sabrina mesmerized him. The silence between them was comfortable, like they were sharing an ancient moment. Sabrina was the first to break the silence. "How do you want to do this? Should we just read each other's papers and take turns giving feedback?" Sounds good to me, Richard said, coming back to earth. But let's eat first, if you don't mind. I'm starving. As Sabrina and Richard were eating, she asked how he liked the burger and how he liked playing in a band. Richard asked her how her salad was and if she went there often. Ha! Sabrina chortled. I come here so often they should name a chair after me. Richard laughed. Really? That often? What about other places? Do you eat out a lot? Not really, Sabrina explained. I'm kind of picky about what I eat and drink. When I was a kid, typical junk food made me really sick, so now I'm kind of weird about it. I don't think it's weird, Richard said. I think it's good you're conscious about what goes in your body. Sabrina felt so relieved that he didn't think she was strange for being picky. She wasn't trying to impress him, but it made her feel good that he seemed so accepting of her choices. After Richard and Sabrina finished their food, they read each other's papers. Both of them were highly focused and nervous. It's almost as if the room had gone silent. When Sabrina would peek at Richard to see his facial reaction to her paper, he would look up at her. Then they both would continue reading. Richard's paper was like poetry. It was about seeing things from a different perspective and highlighting the light in our lives. Sabrina's paper was a story about a woman with extreme anxiety and how she allowed the love of God to heal her. When they were each done reading, they put the papers down. Okay, you first, Richard hurried. I want to get mine over with. He looked genuinely nervous. His palms were sweating and his leg was shaking under the table. Well, Sabrina started. She couldn't get over how that shirt made his eyes stand out. I enjoyed the poetry. I'm surprised you couldn't find a poetry class. As for the creative writing part, I really loved the line, when you see the light around someone, all the darkness goes away. It's very poetic and creative. I think the character of your story has a lot of potential for love because he sees the light of love. Does that make sense? Oh my God, yes! That's exactly what I was trying to get across. Richard was relieved. He took a breath. And now it's your turn. Are you ready? Sabrina didn't think she'd ever be ready for a moment where her creative side was being examined, but somehow she trusted Richard. I'm ready. Richard realized that Sabrina's eyes were closed tightly, as if someone was ready to strike her down. He reached out and touched her hand. Hey, I'm not going to hurt you. Your work is great. Sabrina opened her eyes, realizing that Richard was looking at her with concern. His gaze was fixed on hers with a smile. Her heart skipped a beat. Why do his eyes have to be so blue? Why does that shirt look so good on him? She thought. She took a deep breath and said, I am nervous. I've been writing stuff like this for weeks, but I never thought I would put myself in a position to be judged on it. Can I share my thoughts? Richard asked. Please. I think the woman in your story feels conflicted. She wants to trust there is something more for her, but she is scared everything will go wrong, so she doesn't even try. I especially enjoy the way you describe the anxiety as being a weight so heavy that breathing felt difficult. Richard paused, looking as though he had made a confession. I know exactly how that feels. And there it is, Sabrina thought. He's not as perfect as I think. She felt like she had to say something, but instead placed her hand on his. He gazed down at her touch, then back to her eyes. The color of her burgundy shirt really complemented her skin tone. When they realized they were sitting closer than new friends normally did, they quickly straightened up and released each other's hands. Wow, did I just confess a secret to you? Richard laughed nervously. I didn't hear anything, said Sabrina, rolling her eyes and smiling. Anyways, you like the story then? Yes. It's almost as if you studied a lot of psychology in college. Richard was quite inquisitive now. Oh, yeah, I guess we never got around to the career talk. Sabrina stuck her hand out in a comical gesture. Hi, my name is Sabrina Lorenzi. I'm a therapist by day, writer by night. I love health food, rock music, and my peace and quiet." She giggled a little. As Richard shook her hand like a Roger Rabbit character, he said, "Nice to meet you, Sabrina. My name is Richard Wolf. I'm a rock star by night and do construction work by day. The guitar doesn't pay enough of my bills. I love rock music, new experiences, and America." Their laughter lightened the mood a lot. It's not that the previous intensity was bad, but it was a little too soon. They barely knew each other. "It sounds like we got the rock music in common," Sabrina said. "Can I ask you a question?" "Sure," Richard invited. "Woher kommen Sie?" Sabrina spoke a little German, and she knew the accent well. All of her German instructors in college were from one German-speaking country or another. She loved the language, but didn't speak it very well. Richard looked pleasantly surprised. "Ich komme aus Berlin. Sie sprechen gut Deutsch. Sie dürfen mich ruhig duzen." He told her he was from Berlin and that she spoke German well, and encouraged her to use informal German with him. "Danke," she continued. "I learned German in college. I always wanted to go there, but I'm always so busy with work, and I can't find the time." "Well, you just have to make the time." Richard sounded like Pam, which was cute and annoying. He had a brief fantasy in his head about what it would be like to take Sabrina on a trip like that. He could show her the hidden beauty of his country. "All you gotta do is plan it." "You're right," she said. "My best friend tells me that all the time, that I just need to make time because there's no such thing as finding time." "My father used to tell me that too," Richard said, "which is why I do what I do. I love playing and writing new songs. I love the feeling of being up on stage and hearing my own music come to life. I always make time for it. I even converted the guest bedroom in my condo into a soundproof recording studio." Richard didn't know why he was opening up to her like this, but he felt comfortable telling her these things. "So what's it like being a therapist?" Richard asked. "It's great, just not very fulfilling," Sabrina answered him honestly. "Why not? You get to help people with their mental issues. So many people need that kind of help. You're like a secret superhero," he said with a huge smile on his face. "It's more of a selfish reason, really." Sabrina was wondering why she was telling him this. She didn't even tell Pam these kinds of things. "I like helping people, but after working my whole life towards something, I expected it to be different. I expected to be happier." Richard could hear the hesitation in her voice and asked, "Do you think happiness is a scalable thing? Like maybe you are happy enough, but still want more?" "Okay," Sabrina giggled. "Who's the therapist now?" Sabrina lightened the mood again. It just felt too heavy talking about such deep subjects with a practical stranger. They continued to keep the conversation light as they got to know one another better. Sabrina glanced at her watch. "Oh my, look at the time," she said. They had been there for 6 hours. She has never been that involved in a conversation before. I didn't mean to keep you," Richard said. No, this was the best homework session I've ever had," Sabrina said. "Not that we spent a lot of time on homework." They continued to talk as Richard walked her to her car. "I'll see you in class then?" he said. "Yep." Sabrina paused. She wanted to say something else, but it came out as, "Have a good night." Loving the story so far? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because it's about to get a whole lot sexier. Dive in deeper with your very own copy on Kindle, hardcover, or paperback, all on Amazon. All you gotta do is check the links below. Now let's get back to the story. That night, Sabrina had a dream. She was in a rental car with Richard, driving along the countryside of Germany. The wind was fresh, and the green trees were full and gorgeous. They were laughing and listening to music. When they got out to take pictures, he suggested a selfie. As he took the photo, he leaned over and kissed her. Sabrina shot up out of bed. "Stupid subconscious," she mumbled. But it was more than just subconscious because Richard had the same dream. Meanwhile, back in his condo, Richard got out of bed to get some water. He thought, wow, that dream felt so real. He couldn't get her out of his mind. He went to his studio bedroom to play some tunes. He ended up writing a song. After he was done, he tucked it away and went to bed. On Wednesday night's class, Sabrina walked in and saw Richard already sitting in the same spot. She sat next to him and whispered, "Are you nervous?" "A little," he admitted. "What about you?" "Nauseated," Sabrina giggled. "Okay, class," the instructor said. "Today you are going to hand in your work and we will move forward with our stories. You can choose a new writing partner or stay with the same one. The important thing is that there is a certain amount of honesty and writing chemistry between you two." Without thinking, Sabrina reached over and put her hand on Richard's shoulder. He looked over at her and smiled. Their assignment was to develop the depth of their characters each week. If they were writing about trees, the trees had to have a character. If Sabrina was being honest, this instructor was a character. After class, Richard walked Sabrina to her car again. "Hey, I have a question," he said. "Okay, what's up?" "Do you," Richard hesitated, "have a boyfriend?" Sabrina was caught off guard. No. Why do you ask?" "Well, I saw you at the club with a guy, and I thought maybe he was your boyfriend, so I didn't want to overstep my bounds." Richard let out a sigh of relief. "Oh, wow," Sabrina scrambled to explain. "I went out with him a few times, but it didn't work out." Richard spoke slowly. "Maybe after our study session on Sunday, you would like to have dinner with me?" It was almost as if the whole city disappeared. Sabrina didn't know what to say. She thought she felt this connection between them, but this was a piece of validation. All her doubts were now being pulled from her, and she didn't have ground to stand on. She was in shock. Pulling herself together quickly, she said, "I would love to have dinner with you." "Great. What time would you like me to pick you up?" "Oh, crap. Sabrina doesn't do pickups. She likes to keep her house private." Somehow, though, as he was looking into her eyes, waiting for an answer, she felt safe. She trusted for the first time in her life that she could actually reveal the Batcave. "I live kind of far, are you sure?" Sabrina hesitated. "I don't mind," Richard said. "It's the gentleman thing to do. Besides, I'd drive halfway to California to have dinner with you." Sabrina smiled. "I'll be ready by 6 p.m. I'll text you the address later." They said their goodbyes, and Sabrina headed home. The next morning, she got a text from Pam. "Hey girl, I know we haven't been hanging out lately. Been busy with Brian. I want to make time for you. Dinner at my place after work?" She texted Pam back. "Sounds great. I have a lot to tell you. See you then." After work, Sabrina headed over to Pam's house. When she opened the door, it smelled like garlic, fish, and the scent of patchouli incense. She was making Sabrina's favorite, roasted veggies and cod. Sabrina went to the kitchen with Pam to help her finish dinner. As they were chatting, Pam was telling Sabrina how much she liked Brian and how he was different from the other losers she had dated. And Sabrina casually interjected her scheduled date with Richard this weekend. Pam almost spit out her wine. "What? Are you talking about Guitar Guy?" Pam was almost dancing at this point. "Tell me everything. What happened? How did he ask? What were you wearing? What was he wearing? Did he ask in a confident way? A creepy way? An awkward way?" "Holy crap, Pam, take a breath," Sabrina teased. "It was after class. He walked me to my car, and he asked if I had a boyfriend, which I thought was sweet. Then He asked me if he could take me out to dinner after our study session. So, did he think Dean was your boyfriend that night when you went to see him play? Pam asked. That's what he said. I told him we just went out a few times, but I wasn't going out with him anymore. Sabrina felt comfortable telling Pam these details, and even though she was her best friend, Sabrina didn't want to share any mushy details. She totally left out the part that they were talking for 6 hours at the smoothie place and that she had a dream about him that night. She also didn't mention that his eyes made her melt like a schoolgirl. Sabrina didn't think she'd hear the end of it. After dinner, they cleaned up and Sabrina went home. That was the end of Chapter 2. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you're notified as soon as Chapter 3 drops next week. Take care, everyone.